public hearings. We do have one public hearing this evening, and it's going to be waive the first reading and introduce ordinances enacting water and wastewater capacity charge updates.
Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, capacity charges are one-time connection fees paid up front as a condition for new development or expansion to existing development. Capacity charges are separate and distinct from the city's fixed monthly and quantity charges for water and wastewater service that users pay. Ongoing ratepayers do not pay the capacity charge that we're discussing today. Capacity charges are designed for the water and wastewater systems to recover costs of existing infrastructure and assets and to pay for new facilities directly benefiting new development. In the course of recent City Council review of water and wastewater rates, the City Council asked that there be an update to the city's capacity charges to ensure that new development pays its fair share of capital project costs. The City Council last updated the water and wastewater capacity charges in 2001. In your agenda packet, there is a Bartle Wells report dated September of this year, updating the city's capacity charges and making recommendations. The existing capacity charges, as the current ordinances read, charge for both water and wastewater using meter sizes. The City Council Subcommittee recommends a formula change related to residential capacity charges by using a charge per residential unit. Non-residential capacity charges would continue to use different meter sizes. And I'll stop in just a minute and allow the subcommittee to further describe their recommendation. In their report, Bartle Wells did provide a survey that shows proposed rates moving the city from the lowest capacity charges of all of our nearby comparator cities and agencies to moving the city to about the middle range, the mid-range of all of these agencies. That is not to say that there are not significant increases compared to where we are currently placed. As an example, a single-family home, the water capacity charge would increase by a little bit less, or by about 4 times, and the wastewater charge would increase by a little bit less than 2 times. The meter-based non-residential water capacity charge would again increase about 4 times, and the wastewater charge by a little bit less than 2 times. The subcommittee recommendation also recommends that the schedule be updated annually using a construction-based index that would not allow the lag to take place in the future for rate adjustments as it did between now and back to 2001. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions. And again, you well know Alex Handler from Bartle Wells is here to answer any questions also.
Good. Any questions for staff at this time before we open the public hearing?
I'm sorry, Mayor. You have distributed updated ordinances, and I just point out the 2 elements in each of them that have been included that were not in the agenda packet. In both of them, there on the first page there is and it's highlighted. There is a greater definition, a better definition of the use of these funds that it is to recover costs. And the second element in the updated ordinance is the index language for the automatic annual adjustments to the charges. So those are the only changes from the material in your agenda packet.
Any questions for staff at this time or our consultant before we open the public hearing?
Through the chair, just for the public, it's section 1, item F is what's highlighted for us because that wouldn't be in the packet or online. And under adjustments are the two items that were highlighted that the finance director is referencing for information.
Okay. At this time, we'll open the public hearing. Anybody in the audience, public like to speak? Just come to the podium and tell us your name and street.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Christensen. I'm former employee of the College District and a current consultant on the housing project at Skyline College. I'm here tonight because we just learned about the ordinance that you're discussing this evening on Monday, and we immediately contacted the city to find out more about it. The existing ordinance was not in the packet and it wasn't online, so it was kind of hard for us to analyze what the differences were. We've had an active application under review by the city since April, and our application was deemed complete on August 10th. We've had weekly meetings with staff since we began this process in April, and we never heard anything about this ordinance. Also, all city departments reviewed our first submittal, gave us comments, and gave us subsequent comments on other submittals, and all during that time, every department weighed in, and we didn't hear anything about the ordinance. So having said that, our assumption is that this ordinance will not apply to our application at Skyline College because we were deemed complete August 10th before this ordinance was introduced. And we'd appreciate some clarification of this before the ordinance is actually adopted in a couple of weeks. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I had the opportunity to have a brief conversation with Barbara Christensen and representatives of Southern Hill Homes just prior to the council meeting this evening, and I've advised them, as well as have had a short conversation with the city attorney, that we will look into the specific factors related to their project and provide a response very shortly, and certainly before your second reading and any action on this ordinance on the 24th of October.
Okay. Good. Anyone else from the public like to address the council on this? If I close the public hearing, you're going to be precluded from speaking on this to us. Any action?
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any action by the council? Discussion? Marty?
So this is something that hasn't been done in 16 years. While residents have been paying increases, substantial increases, we haven't been charging the new customers this increase in capacity charges. It's fair, it's timely, and it's overdue. We have to find ways to reduce the burden on our residents, our current residents. And one way of doing that is to make sure, as this rate study confirmed, that it's a legal basis to do that. So I'm totally in favor of this. This is one of the things that I pushed for when we voted for the rate increase a little while ago. So I'm fully in favor, and I encourage the council for its support.
Okay. Anyone else? Ken?
Through the chair, the rate consultant is here, and although your explanation was very clear, I'd like to hear from the professional that provide the rate analysis and give us, and not rate not in consultant terms, but, in terms that most of us can understand, and why this is timely and why this is necessary. Thank you.
Sure, I'll try to keep it brief too. Yeah, these are the one-time charges that new connections have to pay. To be fair to everyone, including ratepayers, you want to make sure that new folks are paying their fair share of costs to connect to a system that's essentially been originally funded by ratepayers. There's a lot of pipelines, a lot of infrastructure out there, and more stuff to be built that's going to be benefit to the new development. So that was the whole purpose of this study coming out of the rate study. Hey, make sure we're also charging the new folks their equitable share. So we went through a fairly common approach to calculating these fees. Worked with the city. There was some, I recall, some utility committee public meetings that were held where there was some good participation from folks as well. And at the end of the day, the fees are increasing, particularly the water fees are very low, to a level that's kind of more in the middle range compared to most of your other regional agencies out there. The sewers in the lower middle range, it's also bumping up to the middle, all to make sure that everyone's funding their fair share, so the ratepayers aren't on the hook for costs that new development should be paying.
And if I could just, for a follow-up, is that the basis of the other municipalities, the other rates?
Good question. With these development impact fees, a lot of agencies establish them many years ago and just leave them on the books. They don't get looked at for many years. So I work with a lot of agencies who have fees that have not been changed in a long time. But in recent years, a lot of agencies have been turning their attention to these fees. So we've certainly worked with a lot of other regional agencies that are going through the very same effort that you're going through here. And the good thing is, the nice thing is if you do get these fees in place, that there is an automatic escalator to keep them aligned with the cost of construction cost inflation, so they don't fall behind over a long period of time.
Okay. Anything else? Anyone else? Irene?
Thank you. We did have a rather lively discussion about this, and it was a difficult decision for me. It seemed like an awful lot of money to add on to this. But it is a one-time fee, and it is paying into a system that all of you as ratepayers have been paying into and will be paying into for next 10 years at least, so that it gets rebuilt. Everything you do in construction is expensive. Everything you do underground is even more expensive. And anything that is connected with water and wastewater is even more expensive than that, as you all know. So we tried to find a way to have the people who are building something new add to our funding to keep the system going. So it is a lot of money if you look at it one way. If you look at it another way, it's a one-time cost for a one-time thing, and it helps the system. The caution about this is we don't have a lot of new development in San Bruno, and this is not going to generate millions and millions of dollars. This is just another piece to the puzzle, so just a cautionary tale.
Anyone else? Rico?
And just very quick, to Barbara, who had asked the question. So my understanding, again, the attorney will bring forward on the 24th a review of the Skyline project before the second reading, and that can be rediscussed to see about the August 10th, 2017 completion date and what that is from you. And then the other thing is, I think that this is back, and I think that was a unanimous decision, I think, to bring it back tonight, so that's what my expectation was. And so it is just a piece. Irene, I think you're very correct. Don't want to get people the wrong expectation that this solves all the woes. It does not. But it does bring something that has not been looked at or increased in 16 years, and it needs to be brought up to equity with the rest of the community.
Someone like to make a motion?
I'd like to introduce and waive the first hearing.
Make a motion.
Reading, I'm sorry.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to waive the first reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Would you like to introduce the ordinance?
I'd like to introduce the ordinance.
Councilmember Marty Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Rico Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Our next item is public comment on items not on this agenda. It is the council's policy to refer matters raised in this forum to staff for investigation and or action where
Excuse me,
appropriate.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt. There are two ordinances. We need you to take action separately on them.
You're right.
One on water, we'll
You're
we'll
right.
just
Sorry.
assume that that vote was just now about water,
Water.
if that meets the council's pleasure, and if you could take a similar vote on wastewater.
Introduce the resolution.
Motion to waive the first
I'm
reading.
sorry, again, all the way back. All right, sorry. Motion to waive the first reading.
Second.
Motion is second to waive the first reading regarding wastewater.
Councilmember Marty Medina,
Aye.
Councilmember Rico Medina.
Wait a minute.
Oops.
Take two.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Now, Marty?
So now I get to introduce the ordinance for the wastewater capacity charge.
Councilmember Marty Medina,
Aye.
Councilmember Rico Medina,
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ibarra,
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye.